The first time Eli Carter heard the question, it wasn't flirtation that tightened his chest, but fear, because the canyon was quiet in the way that warns a man he is no longer alone. And when he turned, he saw her standing between the junipers, tall and steady, eyes bright with a cautious fire that had learned too early how quickly words can be twisted into weapons. And he understood that this was a test not of desire but of character, a line drawn in dust and breath between what a man might say and what he would actually do. And Eli, sunburned hands, threadbare hat, the kind of rancher who measured wealth and weather and the health of his cattle, knew that if he spoke first, he would fail, because the world had taught her to expect promises that evaporated. So he did the only honest thing left and lifted his palms to show they were empty, not as surrender but as truth. And in that stillness the story of their meeting began to write itself without a single sentence spoken, for Eli had been tracking a lost calf along the rim when the storm came hard and sudden, breaking the sky open and flooding the arroyo, and he had followed the sound of coughing through the rain to find her collapsed against a rock, ankle twisted, breath shallow, her dress torn by thorns. And even then, when she woke and fixed him with that question, sharp as flint, softened by pain, he had known that the right answer would not be shaped by his mouth but by the steadiness of his hands. So he took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders, built a small fire against the rain, set her ankle with care learned from long days of mending fences and longer nights of mending horses, and waited while the storm passed, listening to the creek swell and then recede, listening to his own heart slow as her breathing did. And when she asked again, this time quieter, as if daring him to be different, "What you want to do to me, cowboy?" he simply pointed to the fire and to the path that led out of the canyon, and then sat back, giving her the space to choose, because kindness, he believed, was not a performance but an invitation, and she chose to let him help her walk, leaning on a stick he cut and smoothed, step by careful step, until the land opened into the high meadow and the storm broke into sunlight. And it was there that she told him her name, Naya, and the name of her people, Apache, and the name of the fear that followed her like a shadow, since the world beyond the mountains had taken more than it returned. And Eli listened as if listening were a craft worth mastering, nodding without interrupting, storing her words like seeds. And when they reached his ranch, he offered water first, then bread, then a place to rest where the door stayed open and the window faced the hills, because he understood that safety is not declared but demonstrated. And days passed in the small rhythm of healing, Naya learning the lay of the land, Eli learning the cadence of her laughter as it returned in cautious increments. And each morning he set aside the work that could wait to do the work that could not, carrying her to the porch to watch the sunrise, letting her grind corn while he fed the horses, and never once asking for anything in return, because he had learned, in a life shaped by drought and loss, that generosity only counts when it costs you something and asks nothing back. And the unexpected turn came when riders appeared at the edge of the property, dust lifting behind them like a warning, Apache men and women moving with purpose. And Eli felt the old stories tighten around his spine, stories told by men who feared what they did not know. But Naya straightened, pain forgotten, and stepped forward, calling out in her language. And what followed was not the clash he had braced for, but a recognition, a rush of relief as family found blood. And the leader, her aunt, eyes as clear as winter, looked at Eli not with suspicion but with a measuring calm, asking him through Naya what he had done to her. And again Eli did not answer with words. He walked to the barn and returned with the ledger that showed the calf he had lost and the cattle he had sold to buy medicine, with the coat he had given her folded neatly, with the stick he had carved, and he laid them at the aunt's feet like a quiet confession. And the air changed, the way it does when truth steps into a room, and the aunt nodded, not because gifts impress her, but because actions speak a language older than any tribe. And she said something that made Naya's eyes fill, a blessing not for what had been given, but for what had been respected. And yet the deepest test was still ahead, because the drought worsened, and the river fell away to stones, and Eli's cattle grew thin, and Naya watched him weigh the feed with a careful hand. And one evening she asked the question a third time, no edge now, Only curiosity and trust. What you want to do to me, cowboy? And Eli smiled, tired and honest, and said nothing, because the answer was already moving. And the next morning wagons arrived from the hills, Apache families bringing water skins, seed saved from hard years, knowledge of wells hidden by brush and patience, and Eli understood in a rush that compassion, when practiced without spectacle, multiplies, and the emotional climax came when Eli fell ill from the heat, and Naya sat by his bed, tending him with the same quiet care he had shown her, and as he woke to the sound of her singing, a song about walking through fear without becoming it, he realized that the transformation was not just the saving of a man or a woman, but the healing of a boundary, the reweaving of a torn place where mistrust had lived. And when he recovered and stood again under the wide sky, the ranch was no longer just his. It was a shared ground, a promise kept without ever being spoken, and at the season's end, as the grass returned and the cattle filled out and laughter found its way into the evenings, Naya stood beside him and asked no more questions because she had learned, as he had, that the truest answer to fear is presence, the truest answer to doubt is consistency, and the truest answer to what you want to do to me is to do good again and again until hope feels ordinary. And in that ordinary hope, built not by words but by daily acts, their story settled into something the world could use, a reminder that humanity begins where listening starts, that kindness is strongest when it is quiet, and that when we choose action over talk, we don't just change outcomes, we change each other, leaving a trail of light wide enough for anyone, anywhere to follow.